Pulse over here. Just hate. Pulse over here. Just hate. Alright, we in here. But what's good, my guy? Sorry. That up a little bit. Alright, audio is doubling. Check the monitor. Yeah, it's on my Twitch, that's why. So it should be muted now. Should be muted now. What's good? What's good? OBS seems to be doing alright. Oh, what's up, Mike? Student, way back 2 years ago. Saw you doing this. What's good, man? How's it going? How's it going? You're gonna get it in. You're gonna paint it up today. So you already know what's good. I'm just making sure everything's good on the stream. And we're good. Cool. Yeah, let's paint. I already know what it is. I'm gonna make some perspective and chill. How's everyone doing? I was just gonna do like a little landscape kind of thing. Something same old, same old. We're just gonna mess around a little bit. We're gonna talk, hang out. If you want stuff to be reviewed, all that kind of good stuff, you already know the deal. You know what I mean? And then we'll go from there. You know, don't mind Pulsing Blood's trolling. He's my Apex Legends coach and teammate. I'm just kidding. He'll never play me as a student, but hopefully we'll play some Apex later. But in the meantime, we're gonna get into this art though. So we'll do that. Let's see. Just get that blue. Maybe a little bit of that purple in there. And maybe a little bit of that blue. There we go. So as you already know, I don't do nothing without no perspective, because I'm not about that life. I'm not having perspective, so. You know what, I'm gonna be a little bit lazy here, I'm gonna cheat. Just so I have more time to spend just hanging out. Because I gotta play The Last of Us, I gotta play some Apex, some new updates, there's a lot of things I gotta do. So, I gotta get this going. Nothing personal. But we should maybe make this a little bit wider. And that will make my life a little bit easier. Oh no, gotta make that, there we go. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like actually keep it to this level of crop, but as you know, it's always good to kind of like paint outside of the crop a little bit. As we kind of establish, you know, our vanishing points and all that kind of stuff. You know me, I like to kind of keep it outside. So, that means I'll get rid of this and I'll do it one more time. There we go, like that. So, I'll bring that down. Alright, so we'll make it nice and big. Drag that all the way across. Looks like we'll kind of keep it in this realm right here, yeah? It seems to be a good amount of space there. Once I find it where I want, we'll just duplicate that, we'll bring it over, and then we'll lock the transparency. We'll make this green so we can see it, and then we'll just drag that over a few times. And then once we feel like we're in a pretty good spot, we will just crop it out a little bit. So that's it. Hit the crop button and then we're good. But I'm not sure like how far we're gonna, like what the picture plane's gonna be, but we'll just kind of do that for now, yeah? So we're good. So that will be perspective, we'll name that, and then we're good. If you don't mind, able to turn on the music a tiny bit? Yes, sir. Let's turn that down a little bit. Sometimes, depending on the song, sometimes, you know, it gets a little bit loud, you know, it just kind of depends. So, all we gotta do, just go over to here, using good old pretzel, and we'll bring that down about a good 20%. I think I was playing it, like, actually for work today, and I forgot to turn it off. So perspective lines are just to make sure that if I'm going to build something out in environment wise, I can paint in an XYZ coordinate system. So all that really means is that a lot of times when people are painting an environment, a lot of things will tend to be flat, and everything has kind of perspective to it, even things like in nature. So it just makes it a little bit easier, so then as I'm kind of painting stuff, I can kind of understand where I want to put darker shapes. You know, something's in the far back, I can make it kind of come out. So already stuff like that can kind of help give it a little bit more perspective in there, and that's always good when you're painting. So it, like a natural, like a good little test you can do sometimes is just take like empty space and just make little tick marks. And in theory, if I turn this off, it should look like there's space in it. So if I do one right here, let's say I do one right there, maybe I'll do one right there. It's a good little test that and so you make a bunch of these. And the idea is that they should get bigger in size, get bigger in height. So if this one's bigger right there, maybe this one is like right in front of it. And what's kind of cool about perspective is that even though there's no ground plane, even though there's like not anything going on here, if I turn that off, you can already see there's space there. So that's why it's like kind of cool, because perspective allows you to do that. It's like a subconscious thing that this, you can tell that this one's further away, even though there's no ground plane, there's just kind of empty space. By the end of size and like the distance and kind of proportion and comparison, right? You look at this big one compared to that one, you can figure out that that one's technically further away. So, so do you not do a rough sketch first and throw out the eye level grid on after? It really depends, dude. So sometimes like I'll kind of do a rough sketch with this. So we could do one right now. So normally what I'll do is, did I put an extra perspective grid? I did. I'm a dummy. But the blue one you duplicated is for what? It's for the vanishing point. So right now there is a right and left vanishing point. So most things in life will have two vanishing points. You can have one vanishing point, but normally you'll have two. So a good way to kind of bring this up, if you're curious, from opening up Blender, right? So it's the idea that one point is going off to this vanishing point, and then one point is going off to that vanishing point. And so what happens is if you look at through a camera, when we talk about camera lenses, viewpoint, camera, right? If you're looking at it through a camera, what happens if you're using lenses, and for my photographers, you'll know what this is about, this idea of depth of field, right? If we're looking at this is like a 50 millimeter lens. 50 millimeter is kind of like what the human eye sees. If I bring that super like low, then all of a sudden it's got that crazy kind of fisheye thing, right? So what happens is these vanishing points are actually really close within the picture plane. And the picture plane is this thing right here. So in imaginary, our picture plane, we can make one right now if we really wanted to. We could say this is our picture plane. And the way you can make one is that you just kind of make a selection, Control-Shift-I to invert it. I'll make it all black, I guess. This would be your picture plane. So wherever I move that, that's where it should be going. So let me just move that in front of it, sorry. There we go. So I'll actually make a few things. So this is gonna be like your crop. Yeah, so as I do this, we'll move that over, I'll move that over. So you just kind of fill it with some black space. So as I kind of move it over, it should be, doesn't have to be black. I don't know why. Oh, it's because it's in my hand. I'm stupid. Sorry. So I just kind of fill it with space all around. So it's like my little ultimate little picture frame thing. So as I move this around, I can kind of find an interesting crop wherever I want to go. Yeah, I should be able to move it around. There we go. Yeah, so that is our picture plane in relevance to this right here, right? Of course, if I make this like super high, right, like a 100 meter lens, it becomes really flat. There's depth of field, turn that off, right? It becomes almost like an orthographic. So understanding where those vanishing points go is important when you're doing it in 2D. So because we're not doing it in 3D, we have to kind of put these in manually. So that's the left vanishing point where it's all right there. Everything's going to the left side in this direction. And then this is our right vanishing point where everything is going right to there. So, hey, what's up, Notch? Let's see. Do you start with crops usually or last minute? So I kind of, it really depends on that one too. Like sometimes I'll just have it there, but I won't use it till later. So I just kind of like to have this one here because I want to think of like mini compositions. So normally I will try to put it in early as possible, but I won't actually use it until later. So it's just good to have. So sometimes you just turn it on and off. So I usually put it on the top of my setup. So this is usually kind of my setup as I'm kind of like framing my stuff. It's kind of how I do it. So let's get to what someone was saying. I think it was Mike, was like, how do we get like a rough, a rough drawing? How do we get that going? Well, we can do it now. And what I like to do too is I'll kind of just make the thing a little bit lighter, so I don't get too married to the perspective. 'Cause I don't want to be married to it, right? I'm dating it, but I'm not married to it, right? Like we're going steady. It's not my main thing. So I don't want to make everything based on that. So I can use this as kind of like a rough sketch. And what I'll do too is I'll just make a new window, and I'll go to new window for entitled 1. So what that will do, we'll zoom out here, and we'll make this one really, 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 really small. And that's going to be like my check for perspective kind of thing, yeah? So if you watch my last stream, you'll see me do this a lot. And this is kind of like my little check mark. And what I'll do is I'll make this one black and white so I can see how it's doing with the values. So as I begin to kind of put shapes in there, right, I can see it there a little small, right? Yeah, basically pulse and dating. I can see it all small, right? And then it makes it a little bit easier. I can see how the values are kind of working out. So right now I already know that I probably need some like more saturated but lighter values in the background. So that should make it a little bit easier to kind of see that stuff. And there we go. So we can just build out anything and kind of just have some fun, yeah? So we'll kind of do that. I'll kind of work out some basic colors. All right, so let's just say like we like that, right? So I'm just reading to make sure I don't see anything. I'm not missing anything. This one will probably have a little bit of a darker value, I would say. There you go. So I'm just kind of seeing how it kind of looks back there, and if it looks decent, then I know I'm in a pretty good spot. But at this point, right, like I don't really care about the overall just like quality of it. It's just like being really, really loose, which is kind of hard, right? Because some people naturally want to like kind of render everything. I'm kind of against that right now. This is just kind of just a way for me to kind of feel out the environment. And the reason why I like doing it this way is because it's kind of like a no harm, no foul. I can get out of the drawing if I need to without that much like emotional or like time investment, you know what I mean? So if I don't like the drawing in this stage, I can do another one, or I can kind of do something else. So there's not much of a commitment there, so I just get to kind of mess around with it. So if I want to now, I'm thinking of me, I like to have clouds and shit, so I can kind of put stuff in there just to kind of see how it works, and just kind of mess around with it, and we'll just kind of see. So Mike said, I missed that part, the navigator. How do you set the navigator? Super helpful. Yeah, so all you gotta do is just go to view, go to arrange, and just go to new window, and then just make that window, just change the proof colors. So you just go to proof setup right there and just make it custom, make it I think the custom is just working gain .20%, and then you're good to go. So again, just go to window, arrange, make a new one, and then on that one, just change the proof setup to under view, proof setup, change to custom, and go to working gain .20%. And all it does, it just makes it a little bit easier to just work this out as is. All right, so definitely want some kind of like structure here or something. And yeah, so we don't really care about literally anything. We're just kind of having fun here. And so maybe I'll use that same kind of idea to kind of block something out. And, you know, maybe we'll kind of get some darker colors within here a little bit, like darker green or something. And, and we'll kind of just work that out a little bit. And so again, no clue if this is going to work, if I'm going to like it. But I know I like this idea of having like water and stuff here or something. Water or some kind of like light value in that area. And this could totally be a sketch, right? It's a shitty sketch, but it can totally give me the idea that I want. And we'll use it as kind of a starting guide, right? So there we go. So we'll turn it off for now, the perspective. And we can say, hey, this is like a good idea. There's some interesting colors there. We'll just keep it as is, right? So two things you can do. What I like to do sometimes, if I like the colors, I'll just kind of crop it and make it like really, really small in the corner. So that way I have that information for myself later. And so now with the perspective, we'll probably still keep it, but what I'll do here is I'll just kind of begin to kind of work the stuff out. So I have that color palette right there, just kind of just made for me. So I don't have to really worry about things kind of not working. And so we already know where the horizon line is because the horizon line is like right here. So we're good. And so I can begin to kind of render things out and just kind of just chill. And so if anyone knows me, I kind of like to just use like a regular brush at first, but for people that, you know, have seen me kind of paint that way, maybe I'll switch it up a little bit and I'll use like a more of a kind of a chalkier brush just to kind of have some fun. But normally I will use a brush that is like very, very hard or opaque. So that way I don't get too much into the rendering. But, you know, it's always good to kind of let loose a little bit and have some fun. You can't always be super kind of married and be super exact. Sometimes you want to kind of mess around with it a little bit. But I can still kind of at least use like the lasso tool every now and then if I really need it, you know. And lasso tool can help me kind of get some of those harder edges whenever I need. So I don't want to like get too caught up in that. So I just kind of want to get the layering down because the layering is going to be like super important. So we'll make a new layer and let's just get the this in here. So I'll probably make it like a little bit of a greener color. A little bit darker, I guess. It's 100%. That's not gonna fly. So let's see here. There we go. So cool. And you know, I can always again use a little bit of like a little bit of texture to kind of get that silhouette going. And at some point in time, I probably do need to kind of lower the perspective because it's still a little bit too much right now. And I don't want it to kind of, I don't want it to get in the way, you know? Because right now it can kind of be distracting and we don't want it to be distracting, I guess. So, all right, I'm just gonna check my other stuff here and go from there. Let's see. And Tyler, let me know if you got the thing here. So what's up, Steph? Steph's asking to do this weekly. I try to. I'm not the best at it because sometimes I'm just a bad person and I don't always stream. But if I can, I will. If I have the time, I will try to. So there was a kind of a structure here that I wanted to be like a little bit more lighter. So it really just depends on the engagement. If I feel like people are getting something out of it, then yeah, I'll consider it. But if not, I'm gonna go play The Last of Us. That's just kind of the way it is. And Mr. Anthony McLawyer says, vibin', you already know, bro. Yeah, if I'm not playing video, if I'm not drawing, I'll probably be playing video games. I got two options in life. Let's see here. Let's see. So, I think if you just kind of scroll back, actually, go back a few minutes, you'll probably see me talk about it, actually. But you just got to go to Window, Arrange, New Window. That's it. and that will bring up the new window for you. So, and if you want to see the values in that new window, go to proof setup and then go to custom, and just make sure you make it to working gray at 20%. That's it. Very, 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 very simple. So cool. So in my head, I want this, whatever the structure is going to be. In my head, I want to have like a really nice, like bright color here, like something like this, like that. That would be kind of cool, I think. But with that though, I definitely need to have it like a, I don't know, a cooler color there or something. So I have no clue, like what I would do with that. So. But in my head, I'm like, that would be kind of cool to have some kind of structure like that. So we'll leave that alone for now. What I do want to kind of work on maybe is, oops, maybe we do want to work on this actually. I do want to work on the what's going to be in front of it and what's going to be behind it. So that would be kind of interesting. Kind of like, I like some of those colors in like Last of Us, and I like some of those vibes that it gives me, where they have kind of like a half-light system, and that half-light system is kind of like, you have these nice kind of colors where they're nice and cool, and then you kind of have a nice little these nice little things where it's kind of like on top of it, that kind of idea. I think that's always like pretty badass whenever they do stuff like that. So have no clue if it's gonna work or not, but we'll just kind of leave it as is. Yeah. We should probably put something behind it, I think, too. So definitely some darker versions here of, yeah. So this is gonna be maybe possible clouds or something. Not clouds, but like a forest or something. I'm not gonna be too concerned about it. And then when it comes to trees, like if you're trying to just like, I never had like a set way of doing it, to be honest. I always just try to kind of just erase it in kind of an interesting way. These little things. And I feel like if I kind of just erase it, it kind of gives like the impression of a tree without having to like kind of do too much work for it. So this is like my lazy way of doing it. And then of course, if you kind of mess with like a texture, you know, a little texture like here and there, it's like kind of easy to kind of just fake it a little bit. So in my head, I'm like, let's kind of fake some noise here and kind of put that in there. So I kind of go back and forth, to be honest. Like I don't want to get too much into texture like too early, so I'm definitely trying to kind of just make kind of bigger statements here. And so if I get kind of lost, then I'll kind of zoom out a little bit. And I'm hoping by kind of just doing that really, really small, I can kind of see it. Or I can kind of look up here too. So with that, I'm like, maybe this should be a little bit higher or something. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Barongo, what games are you playing? It's pretty much like Apex. That's kind of like my go-to game right now. And yeah, that's the spot. Right now though, I'm doing like Last of Us, so I'm trying to kind of finish that up because, you know, I'm a big fan of that franchise. Obviously, you know, for environment-based people, we love that shit. So I'm trying to finish that out. No promises though, because I'm not that fast as a player, and honestly, I'm trying to kind of enjoy like I'm trying to kind of enjoy the game a little bit more, you know. Oh, you know what? Maybe you can have like, so we can make this higher. And definitely have like some lighter values. Did I paint on the wrong layer? I freaking did. Oh no. Oh no, we're good. Never mind. I'm good. I'm Gucci. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of have like stuff here. I'm gonna turn this off for now. I'm not kind of married to it right now. And then we'll just kind of fill it in there. All right, I'm gonna turn the perspective off for now, and just kind of just vibe a little bit. And we'll see what kind of happens. I have like basic kind of color palette, so that's kind of nice. And I know it would be nice to kind of have some of this color, but like super light. That'd be kind of cool. Let's see here. Nice. So question was, I've started to realize if I get to get real involved with the bound light, do you think about bind slat as you go? Yeah, I definitely think about it, but I think just kind of getting those first shadows in the beginning are definitely like super important. So like kind of establishing like where you want the light and shadow to kind of be, definitely play a big part, at least when I'm first kind of working things out. So I will definitely think about it, but it's not like the end all be all, because I know I might change my mind with some things, especially in this stage, because I'm just like, I'm just kind of having fun. I don't want to get this like too muddy. So it's kind of working out. And let's see here. See, because already it's kind of like muddy. I don't like it. So then this is the spot where I'm kind of like, you know, like I don't like where that's going. So like, do I just start brand new, or do I kind of keep forcing it, you know? So the things I don't like about it is like just the overall spacing isn't that great, and it doesn't feel like it has the right perspective, also the right color. So I could keep forcing it, but we've only been in this space for a good like 15 minutes. So this is where I get to decide on whether or not it's worth kind of pursuing, you know what I mean? Because that's probably one of the hardest parts. People ask me is like, when do you know when you're done, or where do you think it's not working? Like, it's okay to rework something if the final result is like better, you know what I mean? So when this happens, right, where I feel like it's not vibing too well, there are some things that I did like that I figured out I wanted to do, and that's that value in the top right here. If you look at this as a value standpoint, there's a lot of cool things happening. It has this nice value, and it has this nice like light underneath it. I like that. I fuck with that. But what's not kind of working well is just the volume of this forest right here. So I'm not vibing with that. So what I probably would do then is I would probably just begin to erase. Actually, I'll take a step back. So as I take a step back, I can begin to kind of figure some stuff out. So in my head right now, what I'm doing is I'm thinking, where are the planes? So planes mean like where is the form happening here? So in my head, this is the problem when people paint just kind of like without any ideas, is it's hard to kind of build form. So right now what I'm seeing is it's like there's probably like a form right here, and that's a plane kind of like right there. So meaning that the plane goes in this direction, and the plane goes in that direction, and then goes in that direction. So I'm trying to think of it like polygonally, like where things are kind of sitting. And then there's obviously this bar right here. And obviously, do I want that to be in front? So I take a step back, I look at it, I go, okay, now how do we fix this problem, right? So, what's up, my dude? What do I play as? Lifeline, but they kind of just nerfed her. They nerfed the healing because I suck. And then also, I'll play as a Gibby Watson. If it's ranked, I'll probably be Watson. If I'm just doing pubs, probably just a Lifeline. But now they changed her kit, so now I gotta figure that shit out. Lifeline, or even a Pathfinder if I'm just trolling around. So answer your question there. So anyways, back to the thing here. There's two things here. So there's that plane, there's this plane. So I think what I have to do in my head is I gotta separate it. So let's actually do that. So you want to separate it into 2 layers. So that's fine. We hit a wall. Walls happen. It will happen to you creatively. So then after that, we have to then figure out what the next layer is going to be, if any, which I wouldn't mind it kind of being like this, some layer like this where it's kind of going upward. And then we have the rest of this space to kind of draw whatever we want. So I might possibly extend it, that kind of thing. And then we also got to think about the crop, right? So right now the crop probably isn't working, so we'll get rid of that. So let's take a step back here. We have that information. We figured something out. Let's take a step back. We have those values that we can use. And this is what I'll do. I'll actually even replace it now with this guy right here. So that drawing wasn't that strong to begin with, so it's kind of natural that whatever we just did probably wasn't going to work out either. You know what I mean? So that's where, like, if you don't have a solid drawing in the beginning of the thing, you're gonna have those problems. So if I'm having trouble trying to figure out just the overall kind of look and feel, then sometimes a lasso tool is really good for that, right? And you see how that's just a really just nice kind of shape. It's very, very easy to understand. That's exactly what we're looking for. But some people can't think in that way, so it's good to have a couple of ways to kind of approach it. So if I'm doing this now, right? You want to solve it. You want to be able to kind of fix that issue right there. Boom. I don't like it that dark, so we'll kind of find that happy medium between the two. And also, don't be a moron like me and freaking not separate the layers. So there's that. Cool. So we're gonna find that happy medium, and it's right there. So already we have a lot of stuff going on here that I think is positive, and we can begin to kind of work that out. So let's actually do that. So we have the information right there. We had that block out. We can go back to the perspective if we're unsure about something. And let's actually establish that ground plane again real quick. And what I'm thinking actually needs to happen is the perspective needs to go a little bit lower. So we're going to lower that perspective just a little bit. I think that will match it a little bit better. So we're making a couple of different changes here. And then we'll make a new layer again. And we'll put in another ground plane. That ground plane I want it to be a little bit more on the green side. Boom, right? And there. See? So we just solved a bunch of new problems like in 5 minutes. So we had to make a mistake, and mistakes will happen when you're drawing, right? That's the problem. I think people try to be like mistake free, unless you're like super, super good, which in your case, I don't know why the fuck you're here. You could be doing something else with your time. But if you're, learning, then this is the way that I try to fix my mistakes like early on, and it usually works out for me. So now that I have this shape going on, I feel like now it's a little bit easier to kind of mess around and or kind of, make some interesting kind of cuts and stuff like that. So, if I want to now, I can find that darker shape and, I can go in here like that. And kind of like with the way that you would do it with the brush, with the gouache brush, I can sit here and I can kind of like have some fun here trying to figure out all the different shapes that would be happening here. And I probably even shouldn't use this brush, to be honest. I should probably use this brush. It covers a little bit more ground, a little bit easier, which is what I want. Cool. See? So pretty straightforward in terms of how I am cutting into said shape, and it's easier. So we can already see some of these planes kind of happening as I'm kind of like painting in and out of the shape. Like that. You can already see, kind of see where that's going. And we'll just kind of okay, cool. And this one, I definitely wanted there to be kind of like snow, so that was kind of an important thing. But I also wanted it to be a little bit light, so you know, you can go in here, and sometimes it's nice to kind of have like a lasso on certain things, because then you can kind of push that in, but then also kind of tear it out a little bit more. So little stuff like that I think can really, really help out. And so yeah, we're just kind of messing with that, at least until we find it in a place that like I feel a little more confident in. So we'll just kind of go. So that will be some of the snow in the other area. And then now I have this nice little value right here that if I want to, I can begin to kind of like mess with that. That, see? So we're still kind of like zoomed out, and we're like still kind of having fun with it. So I don't want to render too much, right? Because that's kind of like going against what I did the other, like last week. So, but it is still fun to kind of paint like this every once in a while, just because I feel like it really helps. It really helps kind of get your instincts going. So let's just say like I'm happy with that phase. I can go to the next one here, and I can take some of those same values, and we'll just render it out, just like. And so I want to make like big strokes here. I don't want to like render really crazy. And you can see like that this value structure here, like it's kind of working. So we'll keep going with it. And we'll get rid of this. We don't need it. And we definitely want to at least imply something that's lighter in the background here. So that's really easy to do just because, yeah, see, just like that. And I can always erase from it if need be, and or just like blur it. So like a filter blur, motion blur, right? You can do something like that, and it looks kind of nice. And we definitely gonna want some atmosphere, so we'll already kind of just put that in now, because I already know we're gonna need it. So atmosphere is really easy. We're just gonna take in like a lighter value here. Like this lighter blue should be totally kind of a nicer thing right there. Boom. So just like that. Might put it in front of both, just so we kind of have it. And then eventually I will want to kind of erase, like we'll make it a little bit big so we can kind of see this. Like we want to erase from it in kind of an interesting way. So that way it kind of creates like a little bit more that kind of like, that kind of atmosphere, you know what I mean? Like, it's all about like painting in a subtractive manner, in my opinion. Because you can like make the shape, you can make the shape whatever you want, but then as you kind of like, you know, kind of sculpt out some of those shapes, I feel like that's where like the money is how you kind of sculpt in, how you kind of sculpt out some of those shapes that look kind of more visually interesting. Yeah. So there we go. So we're kind of in this a little bit now. I feel a little bit more confident, so that's good. And we can begin to kind of put something in front of it. So that's the whole other thing, right? So we realized that kind of painting and kind of going off was a little bit, not the best idea. So, and here we can just kind of block that in, yeah? We'll just kind of put a color in there. And there's no guarantee it's gonna like make sense, but we'll just kind of try it out, yeah? Jonathan Azelia says, hey, I missed your classes. What's up, Jonathan? It's going good, man. Let's see. So yeah, so I think we're decent here. I was looking, sorry, I mean M&Ms. It's looking, whoops. It's not looking bad in the, here. I like some of this light that's happening here, but definitely this has to be kind of toned down a little bit. And the light here has to be a little bit more intense. So we can address that now, or address that lighting after we kind of have everything else blocked in. You know what I mean? Like, there's a couple of ways to handle it. And I'm not really sure. I guess we're gonna find out. Alright. Let's see here. So I'm just using a softer brush right now as a way to kind of create some texture. So it creates some of those nice little shapes right there. I heavily like that kind of shit. I don't know why, but I do. Oh my god. Let me make this like, let me get this guy like small. So right now it's like good from afar, but far from good. And luckily my screen's like pretty big, so then I don't have to like worry about it. Cool. But I definitely want to like also play with like negative space too, you know? Like I want to. So a lot of times you'll see me kind of always try to play with some of these like negative shapes in here. So I feel like that's where things can kind of look really interesting. And I'll turn off this stuff right here just so I can really kind of see it. All right, so you see that positive, negative shapes kind of happening there? That's like, that's my biz. And a lot of times if I want to have a little more kind of creative chaos here, what I'll do is I'll kind of go to like maybe a mountain texture here, and I'll go to one that's like kind of a common one that like John Park uses, and I'll just kind of just stamp it here. And sometimes that little stamp is just all you need to kind of create that little bit of that that randomness that sometimes like nature needs in order for it to not feel all the time like too deliberate. Sometimes you want things to kind of feel a little bit like random, and I feel like that kind of stuff helps with it. So it's not too bad. And so right now I have no kind of like idea of where it's gonna go, like which way I'm gonna move with it. But if I ever have a problem, right, let's say like this is kind of getting muddy, a good thing I'll do is I'll just get a big brush and I'll just kind of go right over it. That will make it a little bit easier. I'll probably maybe hold off on this whole lighting thing just because I'm not 100% like confident in the overall shape. So there's no point in kind of like sitting there like rendering out that lighting if I'm gonna paint like right over it, you know what I mean? So at that point, I know I can go to it later, so let's just kind of handle that as is, you know what I mean? Like, because I'd rather that come later, and it's like a little bit easier to handle. So You know what would probably be kind of cool though, is to have the lighting kind of come underneath, like here, and this angle. Like that might be kind of cool. To kind of have like, maybe there's some parts where it's just like super bright. Like so maybe there could be some parts here where it's like catching light or something. And with that case, you know, that's just kind of now where I'm exploring like lighting and color. Color has to move, you know? So maybe in there's like hints where there's gonna be like little light shadows, those kind of things. Which, if that's the case, you know, we have to put some kind of like darker colors in there and stuff like that. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I have no clue if that's even gonna work, or if I end up doing that, then clearly this has to kind of go away, because that lighting scenario wouldn't necessarily work. So there's that. And again, when I'm having trouble, simplifying is the answer, right? So no need to kind of sit here and kind of like try to figure a lot of things out when I can just kind of take a big brush and I can see the plane that's happening and I can just kind of go over it. And so yeah, like I want to keep in some of these little textures and stuff like that, but it's not like the end of the world, you know what I mean? So, and when in doubt, another way I can fix that, let me make sure onto my layers here. Another way I can fix that too is just by kind of using the lasso tool. So if I go in here and do that, whoops. Then it makes it a little bit easier at the point to kind of figure out some of those shapes. So there you go. And now it feels like I'm kind of like adding like actual paint. So we'll leave that alone for now, but we'll kind of come back to it. What's up, Darnell? What's good, bro? How's it going? All right, so this has to be that color. Well, actually, no, I can't, because that's already the same freaking color. Oh, that's annoying. So this has to be a different value. Maybe I can just, all right, I got lucky there. Nice. Sorry, I had to change the value of this a little bit, just so I can use this one as the shadow color for like the snow. So I had to kind of change that, otherwise it would have messed everything up. I don't know about that, to be honest. So this is where I might kind of bust out, you know, some of the texture brushes here, like that, you know, can be nice because it kind of just helps kind of just roll something over, kind of round something out. Some of these kind of brushes are good for that kind of thing. It just really depends where you want to go. But when in doubt though, like that brush that I've been using is like my go-to, man. Like it never really lets me down. You know, sometimes I may explore different legends, you know, in Apex, but sometimes you always go back to that, to your baby. Just never lets you down. So I feel like that brush right here is kind of like my go-to, that if I have a problem, chances are I can kind of, I can usually solve it. Okay, not bad. Okay, we'll probably leave this alone for now, just because I don't want to kind of beat a dead horse here. I do want to have some time to kind of figure everything else out, but this is the part about having fun, right? Because it's just like, I don't really care, so take as much time as you want, right? Like, so that's kind of the fun part about it, is technically, as a personal piece, you can kind of just do whatever you want. But if I was doing this for like an actual like client or whatever, I definitely wouldn't have like wasted this much time. I definitely would have spent more time in the planning phase. But hey, to each his own, right? Ooh, I kind of like that. So if I want to get some more texture, a good stamp texture is always going to be good. So that just means like a nice little mountain stamper McStamperson. Like, I'm not going to use it like super hard though. Like, some people will just kind of do that and just like leave it as is. Like, you always want to like try to make it your own. So I kind of use it as a way to kind of just like get the conversation going about that texture. But then, right, as I zoom in, I'll go back to a brush and I'll definitely kind of sculpt out like the things that I like about it, and then kind of bring that back into my own. Because I'm still trying to keep like that kind of like painterly sensibility to it, where we're kind of like messing with some of the edges, that kind of stuff. So like now I could easily kind of go in and say, hey, like let's maybe like soften some of these up a little bit, like that. Like, there's all kinds of things that we could be doing. So right there, I kind of softened that edge a little bit, which I thought was kind of cool. And then now it kind of creates this little like, this little kind of cool edge where it kind of pops out a little bit, but at the same time I can kind of blend that out like as is. So little stuff like that is kind of like traditional painting, where you kind of like get a really soft edge and then you put like a nice kind of hard opaque paint right there, and that's like a nice little kind of hard edge right there that just kind of sticks out. I'm studying some Egyptian architecture. Right on. We could put some in here. Well, where would it be where there's like a forest and snow in Egypt, right? But who the fuck knows? Alright. Anyways, we'll raise up this this mist. See that? So I want this this stuff to kind of have a little bit of a motion to it. Maybe kind of make it a little bit opaque, you know, so we can kind of see through it a little bit. And then, you know, I could possibly have something in front of it too, but I'm not really sure, to be honest, right? Like, I could find like a lighter value like there, and that might be cool, right? Because this could be like, ooh, right? Like, I kind of get like lucky there, you know what I'm saying? Like, in that area. And then I can easily kind of get some of those nicer textures. And the cool part about this then too is that, like, if I end up liking it, then I can also put some lighting on it as well. So that's where so Tyler's sending me some reference here. Let's see what it is real quick. Ooh, nice. Yeah, there's actually some good color information there. So you can get that green there. It's actually really interesting. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So he's giving some information of like how green something can actually get in this color scheme. So that's actually pretty nice. So in my head, what I'm thinking is, right, like, if this if this color scheme is like cool or it's like interesting. I don't need this anymore, by the way. Like that's, delete that shit, right? And then we'll save, shit, this is my work stuff, sorry. Let me save off screen so I can save it to a more secure place. I'll just make it, I'm saving it as a TIFF file too, I'm a noob. There we go, cool. All right, so once I go back here, right? And I can erase, then I can even like, I can even throw in some like some warmer colors right there, right? Because in my head, I'm like, it'd be cool if, sorry, I'm just trying to, you know what? I don't even know, to be honest. Okay, so in my head, right, like I'm thinking that I'd want there to be a little bit of this light, like in that direction. So that's all that I'm kind of like thinking about. So this would probably have to be a little bit lighter, like probably not in the pink, but more in the orange, like that. Ooh, there we go. Like that's kind of cool. If something had a little bit of that hint there. And so if that's the case, then I feel like everything needs to kind of go more in that direction too. So I would definitely need a little bit more bluer, more bluish in the background for that to kind of match a little bit more. So there you go. So that makes it a little bit easier. You can take something like this, you can move that around. If there is going to be these kind of interesting shapes, I definitely want there to kind of come in a way where it's like kind of like that mist that you'll see in like a mountain, like in the background. And we'll probably have it be like a little bit lower. Tyler, thanks for that reference, bro. I appreciate it. Definitely take a look at it as I'm going. Let's see here. Just nice. Thanks to the shout out to the crew. The homies sending out some useful information for me. Cool. So Mike's got a question. He says, you mentioned a lot of planning for a client. Let's see, what was the question? Do you do a lot of palette planning? Yeah, so normally if you're lucky, if your art director is like good and nice to you, they'll already kind of give you a time of day or a palette for you. So that's a very, very common thing where you don't have to really worry about that. So for instance, when I was kind of doing some stuff for a client, you know, I'll almost always ask like, hey, what's the time of day, you know? And they'll say, hey, golden hour. And then they'll already kind of give me like a photo usually that they've taken or they got reference. And they'll say, hey, the color should look like this. And I mean, at that point, if they already have the colors that they want, at that point, I'll just color sample it and just kind of use it as a base, and then I'll kind of go off of it. So that way, I don't have to. They can't say like, oh, the colors aren't correct, and I'm like, well, you gave me that photo, and I use that photo like verbatim in terms of the color and the lighting. So, but more times than not, I don't have to even color sample anyway because I can look at a photo nowadays and kind of just know like what the value is or what the color scheme is. That I don't have to do that. Not that it matters because it's work at that point. It's client work. But yeah, normally with the client, they will give you a lot of that information kind of moving forward. And then you just have to all you have to do is just execute. So very good question. And I actually like what I just did there. I got lucky. I don't know what the hell it is, but I'm lucky and I'm gonna keep it. So this bottom one, that just needs to be blurred. Blur, motion blur. There you go. Okay. So very good questions. Very good questions. I appreciate it. So I was asking, have I ever been to Moran Lake? It's in Canada. I've only been to Toronto, and I haven't got to do much sightseeing out there. So, this is all said and done, man. I would love to travel again with the homies, but when it's all said and done, I'm going to like a freaking beach, and I'm not coming out for a while. Mr. Jaden, what's going on, bro? How are things on the other side of the world, bro? Oh, you know what? I can put freaking. Is this gonna work? All right, so we are at 9 o'clock, and the question is, I mean, people are still here, so I assume I can probably keep going for a little bit. What do you guys think? It's up to you guys. Or we call it a day. We finish it later. But I'm kind of getting into a groove, like a little bit. Got lots of painting to do over the holidays. That's what's up, bro. That is what's up. Oh, I don't want it to be that dark. See, that right there? No bueno. So, I already know, like, I just messed that up. And even then, that's probably too dark too. Okay, there we go. So, right there is a nice reason why you want to have that black and white, because it's very, very easy to kind of like get lost in there, get lost in the sauce. So, but I could probably go like a tad bit darker, just like a little bit. It's that halfway mark. Yeah, why not? These shapes are insane. Well, thank you, bro. I appreciate it. If you like it, you know, I'll try to be here as much as I can. Tell your friends about me. I'm just kidding. You don't really have to. I mean, this is just me to kind of hang out and just kind of engage with the community a little bit. I think there's a lot of shit's fucking crazy right now in the world. I'm not gonna lie. So I feel like this is a way for me to kind of stay sane. So if this kind of gives you a little bit of an escape, then I feel like my job is completed. But yeah, the goal here is just to hang with the people. There's not much else of an agenda here, unfortunately. So I did get some questions earlier about content. Like I am making content. That is still happening. I just need a little bit of time to make said content and execute said content. But once I do that, then you guys will be the first to kind of see it. Now the question is, do I really want... Okay, first off, let's just drag this shit out, because I already know I'm going to need it. There you go. Okay. What texture is this? What texture is this? Oh, I like this one. What is this? You know what? Let's bring that up a little bit. There we go. Okay, it's not too bad. So yeah, it's not like the worst. Do you ever use photo textures at some point? It depends if that's what the client calls for. So more times than not, I usually will do it because the client will want some kind of photo base depending on the style of the project. But if they do not, then I will not. I won't do it. Just because I feel like the world has enough of that shit. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, right? I don't say shit as like it's a bad thing and you're bad for doing it. It's just yeah, like I do it enough as is, so I don't want to do it in my personal work because I do it all the time, just in general. And there are many people there that already kind of like do it better than me. So at that point in time, I might as well try to just put my own voice to it. Not that I'm saying I'm like super creative or anything like that, but that's in my head. I'm like, if I want to add something to kind of like the Twitter art sphere, I at least like it to have a little bit of kind of a different vibe to it. So that's all. It's like, how do I kind of find my own voice? And that's something that I always kind of struggle with, you know, is like finding my own kind of voice and that kind of like, how do I bring something new to the table, but still something that's like still familiar, you know? That's always like kind of fun. Not necessarily fun, but that's always a struggle that I'm always going to be dealing with for the rest of my life. So I'm just trying to kind of embrace it. Oh shit, I got a follower. I heard the sound. Hugo. What's up, Hugo? Sorry, I got this little thing. Shoutouts to Michael Young that made this whole thing for me, because like I have no idea how this stuff works. And I get why people like to stream and why it's like exciting, because when you hear that sound, it's like I feel like I won something, like I got money. I don't know what it is, but that follow button, man. Whoever made that sound, it's super rewarding. Great visual feedback. Hector, what's up, Hector? ¿Cómo estás? Big fan of your work and soccer videos. Nice to see your work. I hope to watch some more in the future. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm just trying to kind of do my own thing a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think it goes like this. If I'm doing like super cartoony shit at work, then I'm probably gonna use photos of my personal work. If I'm doing like hyper realistic stuff at work, then I want to do super like rendered stuff. So I go through phases, you know, of like what I want to do. So it really does depend on just the vibe, because I don't really have a set style, to be honest. Like, I'm still to this day kind of like in this weird vibe of like, I kind of just do whatever like my client tells me, and then I kind of just try to adhere to it like a chameleon or something. So, but I feel like I'm slowly kind of finding my voice. Like, okay, not bad, not bad. Let's go back to our perspective here, and let's see what we were working with to begin with. And we can go from there, and like I'm wondering what's going to be the next piece here, yeah? So the next piece I could have could kind of be something like in this realm, where it's like a I don't know. It could be like a rock or something. Sorry. Ooh, right there. So now I'm in that space where I'm like, okay, I gotta figure out like the next thing, right? Like, where do we go from here? And so that's why like I'm in that like blocking in phase again. No! God damn it. What the hell is my wife and my cousin talking about? Sorry, talking about, I hear them like yelling. I'm trying to get my paintings a little more painterly. That's everyone's thing, man. That is the story of my life. Let me tell you. Sorry, I'm all slapped like a slop. Dude, this is an ugly ass like M&M. I'm not doing it. Alright. I'm in a good spot. It's can you believe what we fucking painted before? That was ugly, boo. Like, oh no. Did I already delete it? I did. Never mind. When I was painting the beginning of this thing, was no bueno. So we can do this. It's kind of like a little. Wow, that was a really bad M&M. I gotta stop eating this. All right, so we do that, and that kind of helps kind of see if like if the composition is like legit. So kind of go from there. See you later, Tyler. Thanks for coming out, bro. I really appreciate those images. Peace out, bro. Okay, so yeah, so this is kind of like my my zoom in thing. It's kind of like a magnifying glass when you kind of like do this. It's like it's like doing that motion for me. So that's kind of the way I'm trying to kind of handle it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. So I want to just kind of like, I want to do it like binoculars and kind of just like kind of see. Yeah. So we're there. It's in a pretty good spot. We know where this piece is. It's cool. I don't know about the angle, because so this angle probably has to like change, like to go in that direction. Cool. Why not? All right. So the question is like, do I then want to, you know, like how do I want to paint that? So in my head, I'm trying to think of like the overall contour. So in my head, I'm thinking the contour is like that. That's gonna be the contour, and I gotta figure out like how do I want that to read. The contour of this one is the same shit. Like it's going down in that direction. So it's important, especially in the foreground here. Now that we're kind of getting into the foreground, that these kind of motions are nice, and that one is kind of going in one direction, one is kind of going in the other direction, and then it kind of creates, what will end up happening is it should create a very interesting negative space. So the idea is that we're going to create this kind of nice, super nice negative space, and that should make it visually nice right there. Like, so that negative space right there has to be money, right? It's got to be dope. If it's not dope, then we're in trouble. But that negative space has to be popping. So right now, that negative space I think can actually be further like done by adding in one more layer. So that means that what I'd want to do here is behind that guy, I want to block in said negative space, like with something right here. And we'll make that just a little bit lighter. Like that. See that? So now that negative space changes dramatically, and that's kind of cool. And, or I could do it again like that. And hopefully that negative space is like kind of cool. Like that. So then you have like some negative space. So then all of a sudden it just helps kind of create a little bit more of that kind of vibe. So it's like kind of roughly blocked in, right? Like it's not like super amazing, but it's very then easy to kind of like get some interesting shapes in there. So like a cool thing that you could do then, because you have those things kind of bouncing around, then we could actually put some interesting lighting scenarios in there. So we could do one like this. All right, Jaden, take care, bro. Protect the Yowies, those toys that my wife likes. Cause I'm gonna need to grab some when the pandemic's over. I'm going to Australia with my wife, probably. I'm gonna go grab some of those Yowie toys for and have her ball out and live her best life. See, so now if I want to, I can create, and you can kind of see that how that sticks out. Like that's kind of tight. So we fuck with that. Like that's like, I like that, you know. And what Arslan Khan is saying is yes, it does give up like it does give a really good sense of scale. That's probably one of my tricks that I like. That's one of my go-tos that can kind of that makes it a little bit makes it a lot easier. And so I know of Arslan's work, so I know you probably understand this as well, because I know you kind of do a lot of environments in your work as well. I know you have a little bit of that kind of matte painting style to your work. So yeah, so this will help kind of create those little hints of light, little bits of scale. All that stuff is great. Will really kind of help out. And then, I mean, honestly, I kind of want this just to be like a bluish kind of color, to be like a water. To be honest, like that would be kind of cool if it was like water. But who knows? Like if we're gonna have that, but. That's what I'm thinking, if it's like a lake or something. It's another element that we can kind of play around with, but for now we'll kind of just leave it alone. And we'll just leave it as is, but that's exactly what I'm thinking of. So once I kind of get that shape in there, I mean, it's literally kind of me just putting in like a super blocky shape that I feel like is like in a decent amount of perspective and shit, and then just kind of like finding ways to kind of like make it feel more painterly. I mean, I wish I had more of a profound thing to say than that, but it really do be like that sometimes. And when it comes to these kind of shapes, it's literally just all about like can you find the good shadow shape? And if you can, then chances are you'll have a pretty good chance at like making it look and feel visually interesting. Oh, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I appreciate those kind words, bro. So yeah, so you can kind of see me kind of block that in there. Like that negative shape looks pretty legit. If I do say so myself, but that also could be fucking luck. I don't want to. Oh, I have the wrong layer. Fuck me, dude. Sorry for my language. What layer is that on? What layer is that on? Oh, it's on this layer. Okay. I mean, I don't even know why I'm even... It's like super small. I should just make that like one little... I'm seriously trying to like push like super hard to kind of like get it to go, but I'm like, what am I doing? Like, it's not even like important. So anyways, so what's happening now again is we now have this nice little shape here that's creating negative space. We figured out the planes, we solved all that shit. We had that, whatever the hell that was. Apologize that I subdued you to that crap. We'll talk about perspective, that kind of stuff, which this might be applicable later because I may have to like make some kind of like trees. And then let's see here. So again, in my head, this is kind of important. Like, you always want to figure out like the good negative shapes. Negative shapes are like key with a lot of this kind of stuff. If you have trash negative shapes, like, it's gonna be a long day. A lot of people kind of always like mess this up when they're painting, in my opinion. Not to say that I'm like amazing or anything, but this kind of negative shape right here is imperative, right? This thing right here, it's got to be good. I mean, it really has to be. If that negative space is not bomb or doesn't feel interesting, you're gonna have a hard time. Like, that negative space has to kind of go in the distance, and it has to kind of have like a nice kind of visual read to it. So I'll fill it with green actually, and what makes it look good, in my opinion, is just like the variety of how many points it has. So if I were to break down this little piece right here, right, what makes it like visually interesting or makes it like kind of cool is the fact that there are multiple points, okay? And Darnell knows this because he's taken a class with me, so he knows that if he sends me an image and it doesn't have this, right, I'm gonna like slap him through the computer monitor. But we have these different points, right? Think of it as like vertices, and every single vertice is what your brain has to stop and kind of move back to. Right? So there are multiple vertices right here. So we can count these out. This is the way you can think about it. Not the most optimal way, but it is a way. So if you count it with me, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 vertices, right? Now, what people tend to do instead of that, and I'll actually group all this shit together, is they just do this, okay? And then what happens is their vertices look like this, and that ends up being your space instead. Your space ends up looking like that, and that shit looks flat as fuck. And then if you count the vertices, right, of where this piece is, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 4. And the problem is a lot of people will always leave space on the table, which I don't like. Which means that the space from the bottom of your picture plane to the horizon line, people leave that empty space, and that's why your shit looks flat. If you put more stuff in there, you have all this happening in there, and it creates more space. Yeah. So it's a really, really easy way to kind of fix that problem, is think of the negative space. If you think of the negative space, it will make your life a little bit easier. So as I'm painting, I am thinking about this like all the time, especially when I'm getting into that foreground shit, right? Like, you want to make sure that this thing is looking good. Sub-Zero shirt. We were, but you came about an hour and a half late, unless you were already here. Usually, which is my fault for not explaining it. Usually what happens is when I start, you have to kind of write in the chat that you have some work. And then what I do is I will post a link to my Dropbox where you'll drop it in. But because no one asked, we didn't do that today. So we are kind of at the end of the stream. But if you come back next week and you come in the beginning and you say, yo, this is Sub-Zero, I got some work, I will then give you that link and we'll check it out. Yeah? And we'll go from there. So we'll try to end with this last question, last kind of demo part, and then I think we'll call it a day. I mean, I could probably finish this on my own, and I'll post it on like my Twitter and Insta for you guys to kind of have, and then we'll go from there. Cool. So Akoi Choi is asking miscellaneous question, but last week you briefly showed us the custom shape tool, like building window tool. Can we get a quick rundown on how to make those? Oh yeah, okay. Let's do it, shall we? So, custom shape tools, how do we do that? Very, very easy. Make a new file, make sure the file's big. You want a big file. So anywhere from like 5,000 to 10,000, that's gonna be your bread and butter, yeah? So, is this 1,000? No. Alright, let's just go 5,000. Let's go 5,000 by 5,000. Okay? So, you have this here. Bam. All you have to do, make a new layer. Control-Shift-N. New layer. We will make something for the mountains here. We'll make something for the mountains. We'll make something for the trees. So what we'll do is we'll get the lasso tool. The thing that's kind of important is that it has to be sharp. So using a lasso tool is really, really good because that will actually solve a lot of the issues. So lasso tool is probably the best way. And or using a really, really opaque brush. So we'll just kind of do that. Oops. And I'm just kind of making like crazy shapes here. Sometimes you want to have good spacing in between your shapes too. That's always kind of nice. And I'm just gonna kind of add something here just because I don't want there to be, I don't want to have like a flat ground. So sometimes having like negative space in there is always nice. So that's all I'm doing here. All right. Let's see. Okay. So let's say that I like this. Hey, what the hell? Dude, sorry, this thing's like lagging out, and I apologize. All right. Then there. Whoops. And then you can always erase too. So like I might even like erase here, like that, and I might even like erase. Oops. There you go. Okay. No, erase that. Okay, cool. So let's say we like that. So the end goal here, by the way, is going to be to go to Edit, Define Custom Shape. But you'll realize when you click on it, you can't click on it, right? It's grayed out. Well, why is that grayed out? It's because in order to make a custom shape, you got to make a path. All right, so you have to go to the Path tool. So under your layers, there's this thing that you guys never click on. You have channels and layers. It's a Path tool, right? It's that shit that you guys probably ignored for your entire life while using this program. Well, we're gonna actually touch this program now. I'm gonna introduce you to like the extra $10 of Photoshop that you haven't been touching yet. So the Path tool. So all you have to do is when you have your shape the way you want it, just Control click so it selects everything. You see the marching ants, right? They're marching 1 by 2, right? Looks super nice. So once it makes the whole selection, we go to the Path tool, and then there's this little button right here. It's next to the masking tool. All it means is create path. And if we click on it right here, it will create said path. It's a work path. And if you look at it now, it will take a point. Just like we talked about the points right here, the same thing. Every time it kind of changes direction, same shit, right? It creates a little path. That's all it is. A bunch of different points there. And sometimes these points are ass and they don't freaking work. And that kind of sucks. Oh, that's not good. So it looks like there's a little bit of anti-aliasing there. I gotta fix that. We don't want that shit. Sorry. So you gotta make sure it's clean. Like otherwise you're gonna have problems. Okay, let's try that one more time. So we'll get rid of it. We'll do the same thing. Control click. Go to the Path tool, make a new path right there, and then we got it. So the thing is that the Path tool will always stay there. So if I get rid of this, if I get rid of the layer, the path's still there. Why? It's because the path exists on its own layer thing right here. And the only way you can get rid of this path is to delete it. So you can't do anything. Once it's there, it's there. Like you can literally get rid of it, and I can sit here and paint another layer. That shit will still be there no matter what. It's like an annotation in Blender. Like it's not going anywhere. So the only way you can get rid of it is to just delete it, to drag it to the bin right there. Okay, so We'll go again, we'll highlight it, make the selection, go to the path tool. Once you do that, now when you go to edit, custom shapes is now available. Before, right, it wasn't there. So I'll even show you why, right? You can click on it now, but if I get rid of that path tool, guess what? Can't click on it. You need the path. The path is the path to the custom shape, okay? There's, you know, there's puns here. So again, go to the path, click on it. You're right there. Now we go right here. We go to edit, define custom shape. Boom, hit OK. We now have it. So now if I go and I delete the path now because we don't need it anymore, and I'll delete this layer because we don't need it. If I hit U, U is the hotkey for it. By default, it will probably be your rectangle tool. Make sure you're on pixels. If you're not on pixels, if you're on shape, it will create a new shape. And that new shape, guess what? It's like a path each time, and we don't want that shit. So put it on pixels, by the way, because otherwise it's gonna be annoying. So we gotta go there, and we wanna go to our custom shapes. So there's rounded, ellipse, polygon, line, custom shapes, right there. See that? So now if I go there, it should be right here, and there you go, right? Ooh, look at me, you want freaking mountains? And it's cool is that little negative space that I made, because I know how to make, because I'm really not good at it, but like I know how I'm gonna utilize it. It now makes like negative space in there, and now I'm a concept artist. Not really. So in theory now, if I take this and paint on its own layer, U, all right, I'll make a few of them that are like low. Oh shit! And done. ArtStation, top page, right there. See, like that's not too hard, right? And now because of that space, it actually creates like a lot of cool things. Yeah. And then now I just kind of fill it out to where I want it to be. Cool. And then, you know, you lock the transparency, you grab a value, and you just go across. Right? Oh, shit. Fucking mind blown. And then you do it again and over again. And granted, this isn't like a way you should design, by the way. This is like not your end all be all, but you know, it can definitely save you a little bit of time if you use it. So see that? That's how you do it. And then obviously I would then make another layer for everything else in the image. So then I would then make that shit green. Boom. And that negative space. Oh shit. Oh shit. 2 seconds. All right, so there you go. And then if you're freaking smart, right, if you want to be even like more cheeky, even more dirty, then you start putting that highlight shit on there, my guy. Bam, bam. Hold up, messed this up. Now you're painting that little hint, a little God ray goodness right there. And it feels like it's behind it, but it's not. Anyways, there's levels to it. That's how you do it, right? Very, very easy, very cool. So then again, once you make a bunch of them like I did, and also some that I've downloaded over the years, you can kind of do whatever you want, and it's like pretty easy. Like I have one for tech stuff, like really, really good one for tech, like for all kinds of stuff. It's really, really cool. So, Bob Ross Effects Pulsing Blood Edition. You goddamn right. Cool. So it's 9:30. We're good. Pulse, are you playing ranked right now? Because if so, y'all can go over to Pulsing Blood's channel. That's who I play Apex with. We might be playing some Apex in a second. I gotta check with him real quick. If you want to watch me bot out and get owned, y'all should go follow him. Really good Apex player if you're into first-person shooters. And you will see me on there time to time. That's who I usually play with. I'm trying not to bot out. He actually helped me get my first 20 bomb in Apex. Shout outs to Pulsing Blood, my homie, over in Florida. And if you don't have any, yeah, you see him in the chat. If you're on the YouTube, you can go over to my Twitch. You'll see his name. It's like the same word, you know, Pulsing Blood. It's good Apex shit. He like pro and shit. Anyways, yes sir. Yeah. Yeah. So if you guys are gonna be around, I'm probably gonna play some video games a little bit and come hang out and chill. But what do you guys want to see next week is the question though. Like, there's no point in me doing this unless it's like something that you want to see. You know what I mean? So if you have like requests, I can write these down and we can go over it. So we can definitely do some reviews, but I'm definitely about the requests. I'm definitely about the community. So if you got something, now's the time to speak your piece. You know what I mean? Because I'm down to help. It's pretty much just like free content. I'm just hanging out. But we didn't do too bad. Architectural, cyberpunk. Yeah, we can definitely talk about architectural, which is hard too. Man, architecture is so hard. It requires a lot of perspective. Cyberpunk, which is the same thing. That's more 3D stuff though, I feel like, whenever I use it. Neon lights, interesting. Cyberpunk, neon lights, architecture. Cool. Altered carbon stuff. Ooh, paint water. Water's easy. I can definitely show you some water techniques. In terms of like still water or like water with whitewash and stuff like that, that's a good one too. We can tackle some of these. I'll show you guys how I approach those things. It's a good one. When it comes to water, though, you just gotta look at Ruo Lee, dog. Ruo Lee's the man. So, like, this guy. Like, when I learned how to paint, like, water and whitewash, bro, like, this is the guy. Zoom in on that. All that goodness. Because, man, like, this stuff right here. Oh, it's so good, right? Like, that stuff. The way that he paints water. Super good. All traditional. Even the way he paints grounds and stuff, like how he does with like water, that's who I study, man. Like his stuff is super juicy. You can see the shapes, you can see those hard edges that just go to like an opaque, and I'm like, what the fuck? Right there, so good, man. Like all that, his way of the way things flow in his work, super good, dude. He's on a different level. That's who I look at as like when it comes to water stuff. Like that's the guy I take a lot of inspiration from. Like this stuff right here, like I could spend like a whole hour like just talking about why this guy's the shit, or why his shit's so juicy. Like it's so good. Yeah, and it's all traditional too. And he has workshops too every once in a while, and I really want to go to one, even though my traditional skills are kind of like trash. Like the way that he handles stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's soft serve ice cream. But that's how you want your water to look, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your water doesn't look like you can eat it, like, are we even like, what are we doing? Like, why are we even here? You know what I mean? So like, you want everything to kind of have that juice. You know what I mean? Like this shit is juicy as fuck. Look at that. Like he even painted a dog. Like that is such bullshit because he totally just flexed. Like, oh by the way, I can paint a realistic person from far away and the dog and have the lighting match. Like what an asshole. Like, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to flex that hard, but he did anyway. And I love it. I love that he flexed on us. Like, all that stuff there is so good. Yeah, if you want to do water, Darnell, look at that guy. He is freaking... he is a fucking G. Like, old school, like, traditional, like, painter. That's why looking at traditional artists is, like, really, really good if you want to get better at your painting. Like you can kind of see like how I kind of take a little bit of that when I'm trying to like make some of these shapes. I learned a lot of that from people like him in terms of my work. Like I really try to get that traditional sense, what's the word I'm thinking of? Traditional sensibility in my work. I'm trying to get that. I don't know why I couldn't say that. Traditional sensibility in my work. That's what I try to put in here. Like when I try to paint my stuff, like I always try to put that in my work, and I think that's what makes my work unique. So Traditional artists are always like good people to look at when you're there. And with that, I'm actually gonna put a note in my thing right now to write traditional artists. Traditional artist is like a really good traditional artist that I like. I'll give you some of those as well to look at, and that will help y'all out. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I'm about to go play some games. If you guys want to come back in a little bit, I'm gonna play some games and just hang out and shit. So, thank y'all for coming through. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, share it with your friends, all that kind of stuff. Invite some people, and I'm gonna see y'all when I see y'all. Okay? Word. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Volt, Darnell, everybody. Ako Choi. Peace. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for rolling through. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace, guys.